Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of People Who Inspire. Hi, Golda. How are you?
Hi, Prince. I'm good. How are you?
Yes, I'm also fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I'm excited for today's episode of People Who Inspire. And for those of you who have been joining us each and every week, I would like to say a very big thank you. And as you know, we try as much as possible to talk to very inspirational people. These are people that we may know either virtually or know in person. But whose work I deem fantastic, I deem worth mentioning. And a lot of times when we consider success, we think about people who have arrived, in quotes. So we look at people who we think have reached the pinnacle of everything in life. People we consider to have made it in life. But I see success a bit differently for each and every episode of this People Who Inspire. That success for me is really the work that is done behind the scenes, and it's more of a journey than a destination. So I try as much as possible to focus on the journey of my guests, what has made them who they are and what path they are on. And today I'm excited because we are talking about a topic that is very dear to my heart. We'll be looking at getting to know a bit more about Golda. Many of us know her on social media. Many of us know her as the activist. Some also consider her to be a social entrepreneur. So many facets, a researcher, a strategist. So today we're going to know a bit more about Golda, and also would dovetail into the topic of transformational leadership and creating impact in society. So Golda, welcome to People Who Inspire.
Thank you very much. Can you see my head? The size of my head? Feels like my head just went bigger.
Oh.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm excited. And when you shared that today is exactly 8 years since we connected actually on Facebook.
When it popped up, I was like, wait, is Prince playing some of his games again? Like, what is this? I'm like, no way. Amazing. Yeah. 8 years since we connected.
It's amazing. I mean, when you shared it, I was like, whoa, no way. This is crazy.
It
Wow.
is. It is. I don't know what inspired you to pick today's day, but
it's like really, like I had no idea. It's amazing how things work out.
Yeah.
And I still remember when I came to your house, and we kind of did this brainstorming session, with the late Equia, may his soul rest in peace, and this other gentleman, I've forgotten his name. He also joined us. Daniel, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I still remember that time, the first time we had met in person, and since then I've been admiring your work from afar. So
same here. You've done a lot yourself, Same here.
Yes. All right. So Golda, I like to start the conversation. Normally I start with my guests, where they grew up and everything, but I like to start with a project that I saw recently that I think would be a good starting point, the Inzulezu project. And before you tell us about your background and everything, can you touch base on, when I saw the project, I sat and I was like, what really motivates Golda for such amazing projects? Like, do you get the inspiration from a dream? Do you know from what really is behind? What was the inspiration behind this project?
I don't know if inspiration is the right word. Honestly, it just started as one of my usual ways to support. And just 2 days ago, I was asking my partner about why do you think this has become so personal to many people? Because I've done quite a few projects around the country, and this one has brought so many Ghanaians together, from across everywhere, not just in Ghana, not just from people who come from the Western region. It's been phenomenal to the point where I've had to beg people to give me some time to, pull them on board or even take their money because I'm figuring things out. It's grown bigger than me. So last year, sometime in August, my partner was having a burnout, overwhelmed with so many things. And I figured, I love to drive to de-stress. For some reason, it de-stresses me. And I don't know whether it's because after years of traveling all around Ghana by myself, it's how I kind of create a bubble to, process so many things. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to drive you from here all along the coastline of Ghana, from Accra all the way. In fact, we went backwards to the Volta region. Then
Wow.
we started from there, and then we went all the way to we targeted Axim, but we went beyond, right? And then we decided to stay in one of the hotels there. And one of the workers there took a bit of a liking to Abu because Abu is a very people's person. And Abu came back to the room and said, "Hey, do you know Zulezu is supposed to be just 5 minutes up the road?" I said, "No way, you're kidding." Because we've heard about it, we've never been there. And it was a day before we were leaving to come back to Accra. So he was like, "Don't you think we should check it out?" I said, "Yeah, sure, of course." So the guy comes and says, "Oh, I'm going on my lunch break in an hour or two. So when I do, I'll just take you along and introduce you to them." So it was a very unplanned thing. Just by the way, we don't know what we're going to expect. When we get there, actually, the water levels were so low, we had to trek about, I would say about 2 kilometers or 1.5 kilometers towards where the water was deeper so that we could jump on the canoe because the canoe couldn't come closer to where we could just hop on board easily. And along the way, my mind began working. I'm like, how in the world? And it's not a pathway. It's swampy. So where the land is dry, they actually just have to manage to walk there. It's nothing has been created. And my mind started working and asking myself, how does a world famous tourism site
exactly
start like this? How have the people been living? My mind started working. And also we were hearing when we were walking, him talking to someone about some tourists who wanted to come, but when they were brought to the place, they said, no way, they're not going to go. It was a big group. They said they don't feel safe, they're not going to go. I'm like, that's revenue gone. You get me? Revenue is gone. They're going to tell their friends, you know what, it's scary, don't go. Multiplication of revenue lost, and the impression it will create. Like if they see this anywhere in the world, what will they say to other people about the place? So my mind was really working. And then we got on the water and we went, and you go through these narrow pathways and then you open up into the whole water body. It's amazing. It's so beautiful. It's gorgeous. The flora and the fauna we passed through, everything is so amazing. And then we went there, we got to the village. It was so in such a bad shape.
Oh my.
Everything was shoddy, dirty. It made me really sad, really sad. So on the way back, I was asking them questions. A young man who was acting as a tour guide seemed very enthusiastic, very affable. The people we met there who told us about the history, very, memorable. So I started asking them questions. At the end of it, I told a boy, you know what, we need to just see how we can help them and just put word out and see who wants to come on board. And he was like, it's a big project. You think you want to do this? And I said, it's better to start and put word out than to try and shove this to the back of my mind. So let's see what we can do for the classroom block, because for me, it was 2 weeks. It's for their first 6 years of education. You don't want very young children to be in that kind of place. I said, let's see what we can do with the school, then we can think about everything else after that. And that's how it started. You know, the
Wow.
pictures I had taken of the trip, I shared it and I said, hey, we're putting 20,000 cities into this. If you
Mm-hmm.
think you want to donate, come on board. Nothing is too small, whatever it is, you know, just let's see what we can do. And till today, it's been phenomenal. The kind of people who have reached out and said, we really want to help with this. And 2 days ago, when I asked the boy, I said, why do you think this is so personal to many people, looking at how
Mm-hmm.
we're known to have all these ethnic divisions and all these national insecurities and things. And he said, because if this can work, it gives hope to people that anything else can work. It
Yes.
gave me goosebumps. It really gave me goosebumps. And I
Wow.
said, yo, I
That's
don't
deep.
know if I'm ready for this kind of responsibility. I'm like, if I fail, what happens? Right? I'm like, this huge. He's like, well, I don't think you're going to fail. You've got so many people who are looking to help now. The only thing you need to do is to figure out ways to organize it and make it work. So that's how it began.
Wow. So you know what amazes me, Golda, is this is the first time I'm hearing this backstory, but I always thought that it was like a planned project, like it's something that was planned by, I don't know, with some
No.
collaborations or something, So this is out of your own observation, your own visit to the place.
Yep.
And for me, that's where this is what brings me to your background, because how many Ghanaians have visited Nzulezu or any other depraved community? It takes a certain mindset, this transformational mindset, this mindset that sees beyond what is there, to say, let me do something about it, right? And this kind of brings me to, like, were you brought up this way? Is it due to your upbringing? Like, it's really fascinating for me, and I think so much about people like you, like, who would see a problem and will not just drive by, but would see, okay, what can I do to make it work? So has it got to do with how you were brought up? Tell me how your typical upbringing was like,
Right.
growing up.
I I think part of it does have to do with upbringing. Part of it might also be maybe genetics, but because I grew up seeing both my parents, in my own words, they will never call it that way, but in my own words, sacrifice so much of their resources and their funding and opportunities for the general good, the communal benefits. I grew up experiencing that, and though my mom has passed away for a long time now, she was a nurse, and she used to invest so much of her energy, time, and money in helping her patients, to the point where there were some days she would bring all sorts of gifts and presents home. My father would go like, this can actually make people wonder what exactly you're doing with your patients, because that's how they want to show thanks to how she had been with them and helped them and taking care of them and everything. And my dad wasn't any better. I remember when we grew up and were able to, we had very strict parents, but also parents who I would say were not the norm in certain ways. So much as you were afraid to share certain thoughts with them, you did have moments where you could express certain things. And the older we grew, the easier it got to do that. And I remember sometime in my university years, I used to tell him, you used to fight with mom all the time, but you're no better. Like, you spend everything you get on other people. To the point where sometimes I wonder, there are days I wonder, okay, like, do you have anything left? Because he's amazing. This is a man who studied pharmacy and had the opportunity to relocate anywhere in the world and refused to do that. He said, I want to stay and build my country. He always told us he wanted to be a soldier growing up. He wanted to serve his country in a certain way. So he always said, I want to stay back and help. He would travel and, always come back. And we used to feel like, why don't we just relocate and stay somewhere, because things could be much better. You get it. But he would always say, your roots are your roots. You don't find the same kind of belonging anywhere else. And he was 27 when he started the family. And at 27, starting a family, he had his own pharmaceutical business, and not just any pharmaceutical business, but a franchise from Johnson and Johnson. Or was it Janssen? It was Janssen Silag. I think it was a Belgium Janssen Silag. It was a Belgium merger, and then Johnson and Johnson came later. It was like, why would you want to take on all this in a country where at that time that we were having revolutions, coup d'etat? My sister, the one just before me, was born on 4 June, the actual 4 June. And my dad had to walk the streets and be answering questions from military people. Why are you going? My wife is having. It was crazy. And this is what he grew up in. And he still decided not to leave the country. And so most of his friends in the diaspora would actually reach out to him and ask him to help them to do things, set up a business, build their homes, look out for their family, help with advice. He was constantly doing that. And recently, he told me one thing. There are times I have conversations with him about how unsafe the kind of work I do can be for myself and anybody who is close to me. And he used to tell me it's one of the things you have to get used to early, because he's from one of the royal Gan families. And growing up, one of his jobs was making sure that the chief's stool was always clean, making sure that when the chief needed it, he was there to carry it, being amongst elders when they were deliberating about issues of the Ghana state. And I feel like maybe that also seeped into his consciousness growing up about serving, what service means to people, what leadership means, and what the importance of consensus as a means of progressing together as a society. So I feel like part of the way I am is because of how he is, maybe genetically, but also the kind of values that we were raised with,
Wow. This is I see this trend, with all my guests, that to a large extent, the environment that we grew up in shapes, our perspectives about life, and it really kind of gives me that that there's a responsibility as parents, that whatever environment we are creating now for our children, they would 20 years, 30 years down the line would make reference to that upbringing, as to how it has shaped them. It's really amazing how, your story, how your dad, your parents, and your late mom, your dad, have kind of shaped your perspective, this servant leadership. And I see that throughout, observing you from afar and also closely, everything you do. I realize there's this level of sacrifice. There's this degree of, I'm just laying down my life, to some extent, just to make Ghana look good, or to create a better environment. So you grew up in Accra, I guess, and from there you went to, where did you have your JHS and SHS before
the network is playing up a bit. I've lost a few
can you hear
of
me?
what you were saying.
Okay, can you hear me now? Is the audio better now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Hello? Okay, so I think Golda would reconnect in a few seconds. We just have some network issues. But if you're joining us for this episode, we are speaking with Golda Addo, who is an amazing woman, amazing change maker, and she's been phenomenal when it comes to, creating the kind of environment that changes communities. So she's been involved in so many projects. And oh yes, welcome, Golda.
Hi.
Yes.
I think I had a bit of an issue with my connectivity. I'm hoping it's going to be okay.
Yes, I hear you now. No problem. I fully understand. So I was asking that, so apart from the home, I mean, you've cited a reference to the kind of home and the kind of upbringing you had, kind of shaping this kind of paradigm that you have. So I want to look at your educational kind of journey. So you grew up in Accra, I guess, and from there you went to senior high school or junior high school, senior high school, and then uni. Can you walk us through how that journey was like for you?
It was very much straightforward.
Or you buggered at some point?
Well, there was always the opportunity to travel. Okay. But my father was very clear from the very beginning. Your roots are in Ghana, so you're going to school in Ghana. There was no two ways about it. So all of us 4 siblings, we went through school in Ghana till university, and then I took some courses in addition after that. I also traveled. I think majority of my travel was when he felt confident that I could survive on my own. And I could make it on my own. So we're talking when I entered university and had the opportunity to decide, okay, this is what I want to do, this is where I want to go. Mm-hmm. I did much more of that. He himself traveled very often. We had so many experiences with non-Ghanaian content, educational material, exposure. He would bring back tons and tons of things for you to, I think it was part of his trying to make up for keeping us here in school here. So from a very early age, we had exposure to the world. He had so many books. Any topic at all you could find in the house, from storybooks to textbooks to documentaries, videos, and all sorts of things, even just entertainment videos. Mm-hmm. So we realized very early on that he didn't randomly do these things. He actually went out of his way to make sure there was music, there was videos, there was enjoyable content, there was DSTV, there was entertainment, but you had to learn how to portion them, wisely. He would always insist on checking randomly what you know about a certain topic. Mm-hmm. And if you didn't know enough, you would need to reduce some of your enjoyment in order to boost up, what you didn't know. So it wasn't terrible. The only thing he used to be concerned often about was our welfare, because if you have 3 girls and the last is a boy, basically you're worried because you've got all these girls.
Yes.
And I think it was the greatest worry, and part of his raising us up was making us so efficient and capable that he wouldn't need to worry so much. The kind of things you need to be able to do for yourself, whether it's technically or mechanically or understanding things. He tried really hard to make sure that we were ready for survival. And also most of the decision making. He and I had quite a lot of exchanges growing up, differences in opinion about how ready I was to go out there into the world, to relocate, to spend time abroad away from the home. We had so many fights, but he was always the first person to take some of his savings and put it in my hand when we got to the airport. He would say, "Here, take this." He would always insist on dropping me off. He would insist that I keep in touch. there was a point in time things were so bad, and I had to turn to him for a ticket to come home for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it cost him a lot, but he did it because he had to
Wow.
wire through somebody through the bank, back then. And he was upset, but he was always there. He was always there, and he would encourage me. Did you not say you wanted to be a lawyer? There's this opportunity. Did you not say you wanted to study this? Look at this, he would constantly encourage. So he opened the world up to us, even though he built this patriotism in us.
Mm.
He opened the world up in so many ways to us. And even till date, he would, if I want to buy a gadget, he would tell me, you need to look for this and that, because today that's a standard that you need to look for. Or he would, or he would read French by force, to kind of let me know that he's trying to keep up. Or we'll talk about politics and history. He would say, those are your political friends. And he would launch into this whole conversation. We would kind of debate on views. He would challenge my views. It's a never-ending experience. So I feel very fortunate, very fortunate to have gone through. And I believe a big part of the work I began doing in education and in research came from the fact that even as I had the opportunity to travel growing up, I was also so grounded in the Ghanaian system that I could see the differences.
Mm-hmm.
I knew where the gaps were and what kind of solutions could turn things around. So it was extremely useful looking back at it now. Very useful.
Mm, mm. And if I want to ask you, so at what point did you realize that you wanted to be like a social entrepreneur? If that really describes you, because I look at like every project that at least I have seen, they are very focused on communities, on improving society. So I kind of assume that you kind of really jumped into social entrepreneurship at some point. So at what point did you say, look, I'm going to do this? I know you had some aspirations also in academia and so forth, but at what point did you say that I'm going to focus my life on being a social entrepreneur? And what was what kind of influenced that decision?
Okay, the note is a bit patchy.
Oh,
But
okay.
I hear
Sorry.
you asking, when I
Yeah.
speak, is it clear?
Yes, it's
Do you hear
perfect. I
me
hear you.
okay?
Yes. Yes, I hear you
Okay.
perfectly. So I should I repeat the question or? Okay. So yeah, I think Golda's the network has gone off again, but she's going to join again. So if you're watching, we're speaking with Golda Addo. I mean, most of you know her as an activist, a civil activist, and also a social entrepreneur. I think recently she initiated this Inzulezu project where she led a project to kind of build a classroom block for the community in Inzulezu. And she's done so many other projects. So when she joins, we're going to continue the conversation. Hi. Yes. I can hear you. So I was asking,
Sorry.
maybe if I repeat the question. No problem. I was saying that at what point did you say I'm going to be like a social entrepreneur or I'm going to be an activist? So for me, the first time I saw that you were part of the Occupy Ghana, leading, especially there was this photo where I think there was I'm not sure whether it's a police van or something, and you were seated on the floor with a group of people protesting, and so my question is, at what point did you say, okay, I'm going to get into social entrepreneurship or civil activism? Can you still hear me? Hello? Hello,
my
can you hear
internet
me?
is doing the. I'm sorry. I can hear you. I'm sorry.
Okay, okay,
So I don't know. I don't
okay,
know. It's really patchy today.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
but please let's try it again.
Yes, yes, no
Yeah.
problem, no problem. So I was asking if at what point did you did you say I'm going to get into either civil activism or to be a social entrepreneur? Because I see that you there's these two dimensions of you. Sometimes like people will say, okay, maybe she's a civil activist, and other times like, oh yeah, she's a social entrepreneur. So like at what point do you say I'm going to kind of be independent and do my own thing? Because I know you had some aspirations in academia and stuff like that, and I think you still do research as well. So yeah, what really was the point that got you into social entrepreneurship and civil activism?
It wasn't a choice that I made consciously.
Okay.
It was driven by circumstances and need. I believe by the final year of university, I was already becoming aware of. I had always been treated a bit differently, even amongst most colleagues in school. I think in high school, I knew that I realized much more how different I was. Beyond what I had realized when I was in primary school, it wasn't a bad kind of difference, but it was a difference where I had to kind of learn very quickly that society would try to punish you for being different and for being confidently different. And also for being a female who did not shy away from having that confidence. Society would not take kindly to it. So very early on, I needed to really rapidly adjust in high school, and in university it got even more. And then the added dimension in university of having to kind of contend with teachers, lecturers who felt that you could not in any way probe what you're being taught. You could not ask questions beyond what is supposed to be
Yeah.
comfortable. You couldn't challenge things, and school authorities who would simply get up one day and tell you this is what's going to happen without seeking feedback or having some conversations and dialogues. Every step of the way, it occurred to me that I was probably the only one or very few who were constantly asking, wait, is this okay? Is this right? Should this be the situation? And trying to show that it's not okay, and finding that you'll be alone in most cases. So it also shaped my career going forward, because did I want to conform to fit a space where I felt would drain me? I didn't think I was ready to lose all that peace of mind and all that enthusiasm and opportunities just to fit into a space. And so then the question became, and my mom used to ask that before she passed away, how would you earn? How are you going to earn money if you constantly feeling like you don't want to fit into this space? And it was not something I was able to answer for many, 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 many years. I had to take it a day at a time. A lot of my friends always hear me saying one day at a time. And it's very cliche, but it's also how I made it, because I would have to wake up day after day and look at what happened before and look at what today brings and figure out what I need to do. And I had to carve out new pathways of creating value for what I knew I could do without compromising my integrity, because it wasn't something I could deal with. I was, a lot of my friends used to giggle and say, oh, you get over it, this whole sense of, I'm not going to do it, I can't do this. But unfortunately for me, it wasn't something that was by choice. It's how I am. There's no way I can live with it. It was very difficult. So I needed to carve out new pathways to survive. And in the process, I realized that I had some kind of value to certain people in the space
Mm-hmm.
of when people really wanted someone they could rely on to do top-notch work, um, and not be lazy about it, or you don't have to babysit the person. I realized that more and more people were beginning to ask me, hey, can you work on this? Can you do that? And it stemmed from some of my lecturing work, and it began to grow. They would tell other people, people would reach out to me. And so I began to realize that, okay, there's a certain level of people in this world who are looking for certain things from certain kinds of people. It's not been given form and name and identity yet,
Mm-hmm.
but I can see how people find me, and they find me consistently for these kinds of things. And I felt even though it wasn't regular money, it's something I wanted to build value for. And so that's when I began looking at, in addition to that, some of the things that I believed by the trends that were coming to me would become necessary in a few years. I began to add that to some of the research I do, some of the work I do,
Okay.
and it was very slow. But over time, I began to build that track record. I began to build that value. So, um, 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 although it didn't give me immense wealth, in the time where my peers were taking
Yeah.
mortgages for their mansions and buying
Mm-hmm.
several big cars and having the opportunity to take loans because they have salary jobs, and being able to travel and do more, I was
Mm-hmm.
building very slowly and painfully a lot of things in my own space, and I had to
Wow.
forgo a lot of things. So there were times when I would provide services as an entrepreneur because I need to strategize and balance what kind of funding I needed to keep pushing my research and keep pushing my own things. And so it wasn't something I intentionally and deliberately chose, but it became clear to me that that was the way that I could grow, you know.
Mm. Mm. Wow. Wow. It's really, I mean, I think it's a hard path that you chose. So I mean, if I look at everything we've discussed so far, and here I want to now understand your background now. So now things make more sense when I see you championing certain projects. It's everything is adding up. So if we look at transformational leadership, I've always had conversations with people, friends, and one of the key tenets of transformational leadership is, a leader's ability to first, cast a vision. Secondly, to rally a team or people around that vision to execute whatever that objective is. And in the process, transform and change the status quo or change what is pervasive. Now, my question to you now on this topic of leadership, when we look at Ghana as an example, what do you think is the ingredient that is lacking, to see real transformational leadership? What is really lacking? Because, I mean, you saw a problem in Inzulezu, and you've done this over and over again, but you saw a problem, and immediately, like you said, your mind went to what can I do, to solve this. And when I look at leadership in general, and here I'm not just referring to political leadership, but leadership in general, what do you think is the missing ingredient, of today, especially in Ghana, that we are unable to see a lot more of such, transformational leadership examples?
When you say ingredient, I would say the whole kitchen is lost. Prince.
Oh, yes, you are some,
I would
wonderful.
say we don't even have. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There was some. we don't even have the space to cook the leadership in, because we've tossed it out. And that's one of the challenges constantly that I the other day we were sitting at home. As usual, my head was buried in my machine working, and we had tuned into CNN, and we're paying attention to the George Floyd trial. And it was interrupted for breaking news from the President of the United States office. So I was like, oh, what's new now? And he comes on, and the first sentence he says is, to just paraphrase, not the exact quote, that since March, we have been able to create 916,000 jobs. And we are going to put out this amount of support, and we aim to do ABCD, very precise, concise, brief, to the point. And looking at where we came from, this is a progress we've made. You know, in just the opening statement, the sentence, it gave me goosebumps. And I said, you know, the more I listened to what he was saying, and he was talking about certain bills that would need the buy-in from the other side of the house to make it possible to pass. And he didn't come out and say that we need you to do this or else. He simply built in a space of 5 minutes the necessities, the things that if both sides of the house had progress on, would move everybody forward for kind of joint benefits. And then when he finished laying out that scenario, he said, and therefore, when we sign this bill together, this is going to be possible. Both sides of the house achieve this. And I turned around and I said, you know, when they say statescraft, when they say statesmanship, when they say you're a state woman, the craft of it, this is the ability to kind of present in a way that pulls everybody on board. The ability to empathize rationally, logically, because you know that without your country, you cannot be a leader. Without your people, you can't be a president. Without human beings in that space you call a country, you cannot be in any position of leadership, right? Your people are what make you and your role possible. And I'm like, this, every time I think about Ghana and Africa, I'm hoping to see just a little bit of this kind of statecraft, but we've thrown it out. So when I think about what can make us transformational leaders, whether in a special demographic of people, whether all of us, I think we need to begin to take responsibility for the mess we've created first, in order for us to then agree that actually we don't have transformation leadership and we need to therefore create it. I don't think we've accepted that we've created a mess, even though it's all around us. I think we keep telling ourselves, it's not that bad, it's not that bad, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
You know, and we're waiting to see something before we come to terms with it. And that something is always going to be quite a huge thing.
Yeah, it's a tough conversation to have, because I can fully, I can fully understand, the point you've made, because for some time now, for example, I personally, deliberately, I do not listen to certain speeches from certain leaders in Ghana. Like, I do that on purpose, because first, it's not value adding. Secondly, it's not inspirational enough. And thirdly, at the end of the day, it's just, I don't know how to put it, but it's not based on facts, it's
it
really,
kills your soul.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly. It just demoralizes you. And so what I'm thinking now is that, I mean, you initiated this project. I know you also have She Aid, which I'm coming to in a bit, but is it and I talked to people like Ato Ozenapia, who would always mention that, what if we get from the grassroots, 10 of such people like Golda? I mean, we get 100 of people like Ato or Golda, in the communities, and then we build this critical mass, to create the needed change. But I'm also of the view that the 10 Goldas or the 10 tools that we want to empower would work within a certain framework, right? A certain legislature, and so the political environment, and the policies would inevitably, kind of influence, the degree of impact that you want to create. So it has to be from both sides. What is your take that, yes, we focus on, individuals to create a change, but what is your take on this, two schools of thought that, yes, I'm of the view that we need both, but I'm not sure what your view is in this regard.
Give me the two schools of thought again.
Okay, so the first one is that we don't depend on the political leadership, right? We focus on building people like Golda or Ato. So we kind of go to the grassroots and then do the projects, irrespective of what the government or political leadership is doing. And the other school of thought is that we definitely need the political environment, right? The policy framework to even make the work of Golda even, let's say, relevant. Because if the environment is not conducive for entrepreneurs to thrive, then there's no point in raising entrepreneurs. So my school of thought is that currently Ghana, we are more focused on political leadership, right? But I'm not sure what you think, looking at these two perspectives.
Yeah. A few years back, I would have said that you could rely on 10 Atus and 10 Goldas, or one of each of them scattered around the country, and be able to make progress. But more and more, as our politicians boldly and ruthlessly invade every space, every nook and cranny of development, I tend to believe that you need to have both changed and improved in order to get to where we need to get to, because politicians intrude everywhere in a bid to control. The amount of control, and it stems from the amount of very poor quality people who have occupied spaces of leadership in this country. It stems from that, because all of them have somehow given themselves the impression that it's only based on control and power that they can lead. And the leadership they have in mind to lead is not transformative. It's to exploit and to make money and to secure wealth, right? So let me give you an example. A lot of people used to, and I'll do this in an extensive write-up that I want to break down and share over the next few weeks on social media. In a lot of communities I've tried to help, almost half of them, I get stopped because someone in a state entity that's connected to the project will reach out and threaten the people I'm helping and cause it to stop. Or
really?
Yes. Or they would directly approach me and tell me, we're going to need this and that from you, and they'll be nice about it, but you realize when you don't give them that, somehow the people you are helping start getting some funny stories about you, then things break down, and then you have to stop. And I used to try and wonder why people would do that. If this place in your constituency develops, it's to your benefit because you spend less. People come aboard to help you. There's probably more that you benefit for other things you're doing. So you would think that that would be great. But in actual fact, because of the need to control and take money that shouldn't be theirs, they don't think a lot of things through, and they immediately, their immediate reaction is, this person is trying to get popular, this person is trying to make us look bad, this person is not bringing some of the money to share, they must be keeping all of it for themselves, and so we just need to treat them as an enemy and get them out. There was an issue of malnourished children somewhere in the eastern region or something, Ashanti or eastern region. We tried to help. It ended up like that. The state-owned health facility threatened the nurses on duty, and I stepped back. And it was only months later that they reached out again and said, "Please help us. It's really bad." And I said, "I'm sorry, I can't do that. I've let people know that I'm no more in the position to help because I've been told to back off, and I can't just simply get up and just do on and off with people. So I'm sorry, I can't do it." With Inzulezu, we spent about 2 to 3 months simply sorting out political intrusions into the work we're doing. The kind of sabotage and the kind of stories that people were being fed, the impressions at the back of their minds that I've been given millions of dollars and I've taken a tiny fraction of it and I've come to use them to make more and keep it. And some of I'm not going to mention names at this point, but I will eventually. Some of the people in position there from the government side demanding that I need to channel the support I'm giving to these people through them. Some of the authorities in tourism. I mean, it's really unfortunate because at the end of the day, it takes away from the kind of support 10 Atus and 10 Golders will provide.
Exactly.
The Atus and Golders will advise themselves and say, it's not worth it. I mean, I'm just going to stress myself out for nothing. I have my life to live. And they're going to face constant threats and intimidation and sabotage from the politicians. So I feel like the two have more and more become so close that you need to have them talking to each other for both sides to know that there should be synergy. And if things improve, you actually benefit more. Okay. If things don't improve, a lot of things affect you in the end. And because I know the system and I know the law and I know how things work to the most part, I am able to face them and get most of them to tone down or back off or then try and use alternative approaches to the same sabotage anyway. But a lot of people get frightened because they would mention all these laws that are probably being misapplied and misquoted and things, and then people back off, So I think the challenge is very real in the way we have ended up where we've ended up. It's unfortunate if politics and legislature and government don't have that close relationship with private donors and philanthropists and supporters, we won't be able to make much head.
Oh boy, I mean, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that, I mean, you genuinely want to help. You genuinely want to be a transformational leader. You want to see things improve. And the very system you're trying to help is fighting against you. And, my thinking is, I mean, for people watching, Golda, how do we make things work in Ghana? I mean, I'm just thinking, I know it's a broad topic, but in terms of, transformational leadership, and a lot of people who watch this are very enthusiastic and passionate about making things work in Ghana. I mean, how do we therefore, sometimes it's almost, it's really tough to gather inspiration to to continue. But for those
Yeah.
watching, what would you tell them? Is what can they do to for example, make things work? And because I don't think we should give up personally. But then again, how do we face this reality and still make things work?
It's a tough question.
Yeah, I know it's if we had the answers, we make money from it. We don't.
Yeah. I would say this. It's scary. I know it's scary to a lot of people to come to terms with where we are right now, and majority of people's refusal to accept the reality so that we can talk about as a nation is how scary it is. I understand that. I've always been saying from the very first day I publicly began advocating, I've always been saying it's something that people will find in a lot of things I write. If you hold my hand and I hold yours, we can make it, because where I am right now, it's not because of my extraordinariness. It's because people helped me along the way. It's because I carried along people who helped me. I didn't keep just me in mind. And there's value in holding hands and saying that I'm afraid, but because you're here, I know I can do something. And if you're here and you keep on staying here, we build trust, and that trust, it exponentially strengthens you, because even if there's a battle tank coming towards us, I know you're not going to leave me alone. Somehow, the numbers, the fact that you are there means there are witnesses to what is coming. And in the presence of light, people hesitate to do the wrong thing. Witnesses are the light. And you can only be that witness when you're holding hands and doing something together. You understand? And I feel like because people are so scared, and I understand why you're scared, because the number of times I've been kicked out of projects, I've been smeared behind my back, it's countless, but I know not everybody can go through that and still come out all the time. So I really respect the fact that people want to decide when they want to step up to the plate. I respect that. The only thing that I fear is that we don't have enough time for people to keep burying their head in the sand and saying, I'm not ready yet. We don't have that much time. And so if anybody is listening and they feel they can, in any way at all, if there's information you have that can help save something somewhere, if there's something you can do that can show people that you are not going to be used to exploit, whether it's a private company or a public company, if there's any way you can always reshare a post that calls for people to add their voice to something, if you can join someone somewhere to stand up against someone who is exploiting their leadership role and say, I'm going to join you physically, I'm going to add my voice digitally, I'm going to send 50 CDs, 10 CDs, 5 CDs, 1 CD to help you make it possible. I'm going to keep spreading the word so more people can hear about what you're doing. I'm going to tell my friends that, listen, what we're doing is bad. Let's try and stop it. In any way at all you can help, you're holding your hand somewhere. And I feel like we should try and start. Don't tell yourself tomorrow. If you start it today, no matter how small, it helps. It impacts someone somewhere. It spreads slowly. It will eventually get us to the point where instead of saying "Menu mi hupa," I'm sorry, my tree is bad. Menu mi hupa, because when they said free SHS, I believed it so much. Now I'm suffering so much because my child, it's not like the education is disrupted. They're not progressing. I'm paying much more money than before. I hate it when I hear things like that. People expect I should be happy, but it breaks me because these are not just statistics. They are not just numbers. In real lives, they're real people.
Exactly.
You know, instead of keeping quiet and politicizing everything and suffering alone, instead of taking that 50 CDs and voting, instead of being a foot soldier, instead of being a very learned person who jumps on social media and because of politics you take one side over the other, we need to begin holding hands and speaking up somehow and encouraging each other to the point where we can be ready to face the fact that voting somebody else into power who can make things better is not going to put anybody at a loss at all.
Yeah.
If you are not better off, how much more can you afford to steal? If you're better off, even when you steal a little, there's something left. You understand? So we need to get to the point of realization that if we want to be able to survive somehow, we need to make the right choices politically in leadership, even if it's from our churches, even if it's from our schools. Leadership from all levels. We need to put the right people in position and allow them to work so that we don't keep depleting the resources we have. You know, this is what I really want people to appreciate, that we can gain much more from merit-based leadership. We can gain much more from true leadership that looks at everybody's welfare, not just one side of it. We can gain much more. It might feel to you like they're taking your money out of your pocket. It might be the situation. But think about it. If I'm able to come into power and immediately provide all the necessary benefits for the most critical aspects of the country, right? Or even 70% of the critical benefits, and I peg their receiving those benefits, I peg it to results. And I say, if you can transform this as an individual working in this space, based on these results, you immediately get this much more salary, you immediately get this promotion, you immediately get these benefits. I think we can begin to transform a lot of our spaces immediately, because people are struggling, people are underpaid, people are intimidated and suppressed. So a lot of these things are being they're stealing to keep up, to make up for it. But the minute we start pegging their performance to merits, and they see overnight that actually, instead of stealing this $1 billion from the coffers, and it goes into places where we don't even benefit that much, we can stop stealing and we can actually individually receive the merit-based rewards that we deserve. And in the meantime, the system immediately improves. You understand? So it's not as if we can't do it. I think as a people, the power is in our hands to decide if we want it or we don't.
That's a strong point, and I'm also of the same view actually. And for me, I think at the end of the day, like you rightly said, if we are each other's keeper, if we understand the power of synergy, if we really support each other, I'm sure definitely we'll begin to see. It will take time, but we'll begin to see some changes. To wrap up, Golda, I want to know more. Can you tell me about the She8 project? Because I saw this post you did that was also quite fascinating to me. What is the project about?
She8 is a culmination of probably 13 years of splintered efforts that I've been trying to pull together in a more formalized way. I do so much all over the country with people, individuals, small communities, projects, and things. And I've done so much work in the gender equality space, gender equality and social inclusion, And I have reached a point where I felt like instead of telling myself I'm too busy, I need to create a vehicle that can other people on board to help us
Okay.
support leadership. And I'm of the view that I meet so many beautiful people, both men and women, who always tell me that my sister made a big difference. She helped me pay my school fees. She took care of me. She babysat my children, or my mother sacrificed everything to make me who I am. My wife did this, my daughter did that, and I want to push them. So when you deal with people individually, you hear that actually a majority of us are actually feminists. We support women.
Yes. Yes.
But above that level, we're not doing well enough to help them transform that into actual support. So in my mind, a lot of friends keep on pushing me and saying, you're well placed to bring us together to do something in leadership that helps more females to come out of the woodwork, in a way that doesn't scare the men, because you're engaging with the men, right? You're engaging with the older people. They know exactly what you're trying to do as a female, because the truth of the matter is that we talk, we fight, fight. But when you travel to the communities, the women are still suffering because there's no
Yes.
understanding. There's no understanding. So She-Aid is looking at how can we better get these females who are capable into leadership positions from grassroots all the way up to government level, support them, protect them, help them, bring them together with others like themselves across the country, across the sub-region, and make it something that truly actually transforms. I'm not interested in the fights and the divisions. I'm not, because I know how much women can achieve. I'm interested in getting those women into the places where they can actually do what they need to do. So that's what
Okay.
was. So I registered it officially last year,
Okay.
and we've begun doing a lot of quiet synergies and groundwork across the whole world, so that
Oh,
we
wow.
can do the necessary strengthening. And then when we come out and we start impacting, we know that the roots are deep.
Wow. I like the idea. I mean, we are way above our time limit. So what I would like to do is that how do people watching get in touch with you? I mean, especially with let's say the aspect of either they want to support, for example, either She-Aid, they want to volunteer, or they want to be part of or engage even Spangled, which is your consulting firm for some other businesses and stuff like that. How would people get in touch with you to just continue the conversation that we are having?
I'm quite easy to reach. The challenge is responding in time to all the messages.
I know.
A lot of people expect that I have unique numbers and private emails for things. Actually, all my emails and numbers are very public. It's me. It's not a personal assistant or anything. You can WhatsApp me on 0244 828322, Ghana code. You can WhatsApp is usually better, because if you of other people who are always calling, it's likely I might not be in the position to pick up a call. But a message, I always check my messages.
Oh, so I think Golda's network has gone off, but I'll put Golda's number on the screen oh, okay, she's coming back in, so let me add her.
Hi, Prince.
Hi. Yes, you're back. I can hear
Sorry,
you.
where did you lose me?
So you actually shared the WhatsApp number, and you're just saying WhatsApp is
Right.
better.
Yes, it's better because I always check my messages. And you can email me at any of these two email addresses, Golda Addo at gmail.com. That's my full name together. So GOLDAADDO at gmail.com. You can also reach me at g.addo at spangold.org. Spangold, SPUNGOLD.org. And I'll be happy to listen to what you have to say. A lot of people also reach me inbox on Facebook. So if you find my Facebook page, which is Golda Addo on Facebook, you can also inbox me, and I will find the message and feedback.
Okay, so I would put that on the screen now so people can see. So yes, if you're watching this, if you want to get in touch to support any of the initiatives, to volunteer, for example, for any of the projects that Golda is working on, you can reach her on the goldaaddo@gmail.com, or you can also use the Spangold email, which is g.addo@spangold.org.org. Or you could also WhatsApp her, which is more or less the fastest way to get her on 0244-828322. So I mean we could have this discussion on and on, but yeah, our time is way up, and I thank you so much, Golda, for sparing us additional 5 minutes above the time limit, and I really thank you for your time and sharing your thoughts. It's always exciting to continue this kind of conversations, and I'm really happy that you made time for us.
Thank you too for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a nice weekend, and thank you all for joining us. I'll come your way again next week with another episode of People Who Inspire. Enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.